All right, well, I'll start talking. We are admitting people into the homeless room. And just to remind you from what Summer mentioned in the instructions, you can chat and put comments in, much like a sticky pad, or you can raise your hand and we'll have a conversation and we'll try and answer your questions. And I see Biz Steinberg getting her camera ready. So I'll just be repeating that message to folks that you can type in a chat with your comments, or if you'd like to raise your hand using the hand raising function, we will call on you so that you can provide us with your input. And Melissa, if you see folks with hands raised, let us know. So far, I'm not seeing any hands raised. Seems like there's quite a few people in here, and so I'm going to share my screen and just give you the slide reminder as to what you can do. And hopefully you can see the screen with the first slide on it. And so just wanted to remind you that you can leave a comment in the chat box and you can raise your virtual hand and we'll call on you and you can provide input. And we have some, we've placed in the chat box and maybe Melissa, you can keep dropping that first link that I placed in the chat box. We can just cut and paste that periodically. That will take you to these PowerPoint slides, but it also gives you a couple documents that the city has provided about homelessness and what the city is doing. And Melissa, do we have anyone who wants to talk?
There's no hands at this time.
All right. Well, I'll keep yakking away while people are joining and we'll keep giving you the option to chat. We did create a couple slides and I'm actually just going to go to something that's on the city's website here. And this highlights for you some of the efforts that the city has engaged in addressing homelessness. Obviously, there are many people in our community who are passionate about this very important issue. And the city of San Luis Obispo, of course, is not the lead agency with respect to this issue. It's actually the County of San Luis Obispo, as well as many, many other organizations in our community, such as CAPSLO, Transitions Mental Health, and others who provide assistance to the unhoused. And those agencies, including the county and our community partners, receive direct funding from the state and the federal government, as well as grants for that. And so the county does provide the lead services for mental health and homeless services. They provide case management, mental health services, education, emergency assistance, transitional housing, transportation, and medical and social services. This slide shows you how the city has addressed this issue and some of the expenditures we've made and some of the data on this critical issue. Our police department has a community action team, which is comprised of multiple police officers and a full-time mental health worker who assists us. And we have 4 downtown bicycle officers. All of these officers provide outreach and services to the unsheltered. We also have highlighted the calls for service that involve our homeless issues. A few other data points for you. We've highlighted some of the issues that we do deal with, including fires, medical, and the need to remove trash. We removed over 70 tons of trash from our open space and creeks this year, and we spend a significant amount of dollars to do that. Recently in December, our council did approve hiring a contract homeless response manager, and we are in the process of recruiting for that position. Other groups at the city, our Community Development Department provides significant oversight and coordination with our Human Relations Commission and has allocated funding towards housing. Talked about the Community Action Team, and we can answer your questions about that. We have partnerships, as I mentioned, with Cap SLO, of course, and then we have some new partnerships with Downtown SLO. We do provide funding for a Downtown Ambassador program, and we're working on a new social enterprise job training. The city does fund a portion of the operations of 40 Prado. And then some of the impacts. This is a little disjointed, but these are some of the impacts here at the very top of the benefits of 40 Prado and how that helps our unsheltered community. And then we have some information about mental health care, healthcare in general, and some of the coordination that we're looking forward to with doing with the County of San Luis Obispo. I'm just going to jump up to the top slide and remind you all that tonight this is your opportunity to ask questions and provide comments, and hopefully you are providing comments in the chat box. And I think there's some raised hands, so I'm going to stop screen sharing so you can see each other, and hopefully Melissa can help us, or Jeff or Keith, as to who's raised their hand and will be coordinating their speaking.
Shelley, it looks like the first person that had their hand up is Marshall James.
Great, Marshall.
Yes, hello. Thank y'all for hosting this forum. So I'll get right to it. I'm concerned about the fact that I've been doing a lot of volunteer work with our unhoused neighbors, and I'm really disturbed by the continual use of sweeps, that not just to pick up garbage, but to disrupt and chase off homeless folks, which is the CDC itself has been advising against, that it poses a risk of spreading COVID. And so I definitely feel like we shouldn't be doing that. Also, that you mentioned about the bike officers acting as outreach, but in my interactions with our unhoused neighbors, they see the bike cops as a threat to them. They reported being harassed and intimidated by bike cops, told like to move along, told that they're not wanted here. And so that sort of thing, it's just, I just want to caution that while it's nice to say that the bike officers are outreach, our unhoused neighbors do not see them as outreach. They see them as people who are here to disrupt, to take their things and throw them away, and that sort of thing. I also want to mention one of your slides had that 40 Prado was receiving $157,000 from the city. And I wonder why such a small amount, especially when we think about the fact that, you know, right now, one of the big things I'm sure we're talking about, a lot of breakout rooms, is the proposed $50 million police station. So for what is less than 0.01% of that cost is what goes towards our homeless shelter, which among the unhoused people, 40 Prado does not have a really high reputation. Unlike, for example, the Echo shelter in Atascadero, which the homeless folks there seem to have a really high opinion of, and the local population up in Atascadero seem to really like Echo and the good work they're doing there. I wonder why the city can't provide greater funding to 40 Prado. So
great.
Those are my
Thank
big
you.
thoughts.
Thank you very much. And just for the benefit of our listeners, I think Jeff and I will answer a couple of your points. We obviously are here to listen. Do want to let you know that the County of San Luis Obispo receives $265 million a year to fund social services. The city of San Luis Obispo receives zero. And so it is not our primary mission to provide homeless services. We happen to live in an incredibly compassionate and giving community and have a tradition, and will continue the tradition of helping our unsheltered residents. I wanted to touch on sweeps, the term used for that, because recently we did undertake very significant coordination with our unsheltered population to alert them to the dangers of camping in the creeks. Every fall we do that. It is something that we must do. When we get about an inch of rain, we have flooding in San Luis Creek. We had many people camped directly in the creek bed adjacent to the Bob Jones Trail. And so there was a concerted effort that was consistent with the CDC guidelines to assist folks to get connected with services, but to protect them from flooding. I'm going to turn it over to Jeff and a variety of other safety issues. Jeff probably will talk just really briefly about a couple other points, and then we'll go on to the next speaker.
Yes, thank you, Shelley. And as Shelley was just talking about some of the, the bike officers and really our community action team, which is 2 officers that work with a social worker. That's our primary outreach for our homeless population and trying to help with services, whether it's, help getting into Fort Prado, getting a license, providing food, even reunification with family. That's some of the things we really do try to do. As we do have encounters with our homeless population, sometimes it's surrounding bad behavior. And those are some of the things that, as our outreach workers and our social services, are helping them with. Members in our community also express concerns with us, and we do try to address those, whether it's open containers in public, trespassing, things related to littering like that. So yes, unfortunately, there are times where some that are within our homeless population may be cited for a violation that occurs within the city. But as much as we do that, I would say we really do try to provide services to help find placement or get them into services also. So I will stop there because we do have a number of hands. The next person up was Susan Upthegrove, I believe. Susan, if you want to unmute.
Yes, hi, thank you. I just have a question, and I'm not sure if this is the forum to ask it, but the property that was the previous homeless shelter on Orchid close to Broad, seems to me it's been sitting there now vacant or unutilized for some period of time, and it seems like that would be a perfect piece of property to reuse in terms of providing either low-income housing or transitional housing or something. And I drive by it pretty much, well, when I was driving, pretty much every day, and it just breaks my heart to see it sitting there empty. So are there plans for that? And if so, what?
Susan, to my knowledge, there's not direct plans for that right now that I'm aware of that the city's pursuing, but I think that's a great idea. And our hope tonight is that the members on this call can assist the city in identifying things that we can do as a community to address this issue that are within the city's purview and our community's ability to partner with our neighbors and other agencies to advance those ideas. So thanks. And if we do learn while we're on the call more about that, we'll address it. I see Biz has her hand up and she may know more than I do.
Thank you.
Thank you, Shelley, and thank you, Susan. I just wanted to say, as a member of the Housing Authority Commission, the property, even when we ran Maxine Lewis, was owned by the Housing Authority. And so they are trying to figure out now what next steps can happen to potentially develop more housing that could fit there. So it's just preliminary, and I know the community would start. I'd love to be able to hear from others tonight. I want to jump to the housing group, but anyway, it's owned by the Haslow.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next hand that was up is Cheryl's iPhone. So Cheryl, if you want to unmute and go ahead.
Hi, this is my first Zoom meeting, so I'm a little uncomfortable, but, and I understand everybody wants to house the homeless and stuff, but I know I've worked my whole life to afford a place in a nice community. And for the residents to all get excited about giving these people homes and income and food and clothing, I feel it's misplaced. I don't understand why a person would want to work for $13 an hour then, because if you get homeless, you can get everything free. And I feel like it's sending a message and inviting the whole state to come and join us. It seems like it's exploded around here. I live right downtown on Bouchon, and I get all the Haslow people walking by all the time, and they stop at my house and want to sit in the porch, and they want to get a drink of water. I mean, it's constant around here, and there's not enough street lights, so it's very dark. The sidewalks are all busted up around here, and I just feel that, like, why not give them, they appear to all got tents for Christmas because they're popping up everywhere. Why not give them a really good campground space and let them be what they want? I do feel that the homeless people are getting slighted because in that group are drug addicts and mentally ill people. And so homeless is a whole different subject versus the people that are wandering all day long around here and being a little destructive and hostile. I think it's sad they take the parks because we spend money to beautify them or whatever they want to do. And what for? Why don't we just build them on a really nice campground somewhere not too far from town, because that's where they want to get money, I guess. But I just am so confused how people want to start building them homes and low, no income housing, I guess, in that case. And what would that serve? Why would that work for us? That was my point. So thank you.
Thank you.
All right, the next hand up was Thomas Gutierrez.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for hosting. This is a fantastic forum. I wanted to just highlight that, obviously homelessness is a complex problem that feeds into almost all aspects of community life and almost all of the primary themes that arose. Also, homelessness feeds into all of those aspects, I would say. And I would advocate balancing compassion with our homeless and our unhoused neighbors with public safety, particularly fires, waste, trash, and violence, which are all associated with not necessarily the individuals, but just the stressful lifestyle that comes with being unhoused. And those aspects are not just public safety problems for housed neighbors, but also the unhoused themselves. So I would say that in order to mitigate that, I would advocate for more resources for our CAT officers and their social workers and our rangers in order to basically regulate the municipal codes in the open spaces, particularly like along the Bob Jones Trail and so on. Particularly fires, open fires are an incredible danger to everyone living near that space. But I would advocate sort of along the lines of the last couple commenters about perhaps having a dedicated safe camping zone for our unhoused neighbors that would allow them to have the resources they need, such as waste disposal and their own human waste, but also garbage and trash, and also allowing for reasonable spaces where they could have houses, have possibly even fires to keep themselves warm in a regulated environment. And somehow have it be a safe space for them as well, so that there's some security for them, but also in a way that's done that regulates the public safety of the housed neighbors around them. And then also I would advocate for, and it looks like this may be coming with the new position that's opening, but also a clearer central place to report issues as they arise. Not everything necessarily rises to the point where we want to call the police for every single transgression. But I live near the Bob Jones Trail and the creek, and so it's in the middle of the night. If I hear someone screaming, I find myself concerned enough that maybe I call the police. But I would advocate for a more central location. Like I don't know whether to contact the rangers, whether to email CAT, whether to call the police, whether to contact my neighborhood officers. So I would advocate for a more central place where we could know that we were getting responses to safety concerns and also public safety concerns associated with homeless issues. So thank you for the opportunity to speak.
Thank you. And I think Jeff can probably address how one should contact and who and when.
Well, unfortunately, I think Thomas gave the best answer. With the homeless issues, there are emergencies, and sometimes a 911 might be appropriate. Sometimes there's immediate need where calling dispatch, but it's not an emergency would be appropriate. And then if there's just an ongoing issue where there's not an immediate need, just if not everyone's aware, we do have a neighborhood officer program. If you go to our website, you will see that part of the way down the page, there's a map there that you can open up, click the area where you live or the problem is existing. And we have 2 to 3 officers for each neighborhood. And with that resource, you can get a phone number or a direct email where you can share that information for them to follow up on. So unfortunately, there is not one hub or one location, because depending on the need or what's going on, there are several different resources. But thank you, Thomas. And so the next hand up was Ethan Stan. Ethan, go ahead and unmute yourself.
Thank you, officer. Howdy, folks. Yeah, I actually just really want to say quickly that I really appreciate the very compassionate responses and comments so far. I am both a graduate student at Cal Poly as well as a downtown resident, and I do, like Marshall, who is my friend, we do a lot of volunteering with houseless folks down here. The main comment I want to make is that, you know, I was one of those people typing in defund the police in the comments earlier, so I'll say that up front, but I would rather moderate what I would really like to see with kind of more immediate solutions. I have several houseless friends that I've worked with for a couple of years now, just trying to support them. And one of the main things I've found is just that not only are they not aware of what services are available to them, but I mean, they go in and out of lucidity, right, as they're dealing with drug, alcohol, and mental health issues. I think the placement of 40 Prado far at the edge of town really hurts their ability to access resources. And it kind of bothers me that the main investment in homelessness resources downtown is just the bike cops. Has there ever been any discussion of putting some sort of homelessness resources center, even just a small one, downtown, that could be a literally physically close place to point to people and say, if you need to talk to a social worker or something like that, that they can go there? Because often I have my houseless friends showing up and just being at a complete loss, you know, having just had their tent or their phone or their ID stolen for the 5th time that year. And, you know, social services in 40 Prado are just all the way down Higuera. And when you're already completely exhausted, it's really hard to access that. I find that a lot of our houseless services are not meeting the houseless residents downtown where they're at. And I think it's kind of predicated on an old model where it's kind of they come to us sort of thing. I really appreciate the community action team and the work of John Clevens. And I'm just wondering, of course, then why we're talking about spending $50 million on a new police station when we could be spending $1 million on 5 more John Clevens. I just think there needs to be more proactive outreach to houseless folks rather than just sweeping them and telling them to go to Prado when problems come up. And I'd really like to see funding pointed in that direction.
Thank you. And I think we have added, the Downtown Association now has, Jeff, if I'm not mistaken, a part-time social services worker who is augmenting John Clevens, who's a member of the downtown, or excuse me, the CAT team. So there is a dedicated resource to downtown via the Downtown Association 20 hours a week, and then John Clevens is full-time with the city of San Luis Obispo as a mental health social services worker, and has been wildly successful. And we hope to be able to have more of John Clevens in the future, because it is a very successful team effort. I see the next hand up as Katie Granger.
Hi, thank you. I will keep it short and sweet because there are a lot of people who want to speak. My recommendations personally, from what I see, is what we need to expand upon are the successful housing first models, as well as low barrier resources, and also harm reduction. There's a lot of co-occurring disorders, and there needs to be more harm reduction implementation in treatment programs. And thank you guys for having this. I'll keep it at that. Thank you.
Thank you. And next we have Lisa and Tim Jouet.
Hi, thanks for having this forum. I am speaking from a point of view of experience in the streets, talking to people at least weekly. My husband, Tim, feeds people and clears trash. So I really appreciate the compassion that I heard from some people, even the one woman that lives right downtown, and she struggles with people wanting a drink of water from her downtown location, but still is open to some place safe where people can camp. I really thought that was sweet. Thank you. And Ethan, I saw that you echoed a thank you for that level of compassion. I feel like that is so close. That type of being fearful and annoyed, but yet really trying to seek solutions. That's kind of where a lot of us are. But I highly recommend really trying to do something where you get to know people and talk to them at the parks, with people that feed people, volunteer at the shelters, take the bus, go to the library, you know, like even with your masks on, you can do a lot of very interesting bonding with people and get to know them. And maybe you'd be surprised what you could come up with. Thank you for the Downtown Association detail, Shelley. I really appreciate knowing that there's a 20-hour-a-week person that could maybe point people in the right direction. That's very helpful. I just spoke to someone this afternoon and she didn't know about that. So I'm going to be telling people. I also really encourage everyone on this call and all city employees to look to other cities that are doing great things. Look to this article that I was reading last week where there's this, you know, zero homelessness in Bakersfield. There's a continuum of care, helper data, guidelines, and a website that's incredible. So maybe, you know, and also paying attention to people like Nithya Raman, who did basically a form of the CAT team, but in lots of locations, and they literally got to know every single person that was sitting on benches for a long time or trying to camp without being harassed. I want to reiterate that we should stop moving people during this pandemic. It's against CDC guidelines, and it's really sad. It's really cruel. And, you know, just yesterday, I heard from friends that I know in Mitchell Park that they're being moved. So it's ongoing. And then there's tape on the Mitchell Park gazebo with no explanation and no plans to tell the public why it's taped off. So those things bother me kind of all over the place, but that's the issue of homelessness. It's complex and it's growing. Thank you, Tim.
Yay, capitalism.
So thank you for listening.
Thank you. And next I see Grace McIntosh.
Hi, good evening. Thank you for having this forum again. It's a great opportunity. I'm the director at 40 Prado, and just kind of hearing everybody's thoughts and comments, and grateful that they are positive and forward thinking. We are the ones who are doing the outreach downtown with the Downtown Business Association. It's a real new project, just started in January. But I have a social worker who is going and connecting with folks, many of whom do come to Prado during the day or, you know, in and out during the day. It's eye-opening for us, but it's also incredibly rewarding. We also do a harm reduction. I know someone else, I think Katie mentioned that. Actually, we were cited as the #1 in the country by SAMHSA, meeting people where they're at, wherever they're at, working with co-occurring disorder individuals. 4 years we've been doing that. Another individual mentioned how, you know, Prado's located at the edge of town. Yeah, it is, but it was the only place we could find that people were okay with us being at. But we have 2 medical exam rooms that CHC operates there on site. We have fragile beds on site. We have a county behavioral health therapist now on site, because our belief was one of the main barriers for the homeless and the unhoused, the unsheltered, was access to services. And I think it still is. Try accessing, you know, mental health or substance abuse. It's tough. So by bringing it there where folks are at, it has greatly helped. I do believe that mental health issues and substance use issues are tragically the main reasons why many individuals will not be able to become successfully housed over the long term, because their demons are at the door for most of their lives. And I think we as a community could do better. I think we're doing a good job, but there's always room for improvement. I welcome people to come, give me a call, come by 40 Prado. People that choose to access our case management program are desperately trying to get housed. They're saving money, they're working, but it is hard to find housing here if you're making minimum wage. So any kind of affordable housing, any kind of subsidized housing, it's not free. Most of our people, they don't want free. They want to contribute. Our mission is promoting self-sufficiency. They want to have that, the honor of being a contributing member of our local community, and we want to help them get there. It's tough, but I would welcome anyone who hasn't been to 40 Prado. Please come, wear your mask, or give me a call, because I think there's a lot. One person here said that, a lot of people don't know the services that are available. I think a lot of people don't know what we do at 40 Prado. I'd love to be able to tell you. Thanks.
Thank you, Grace. Renelle Baldwin.
Hi, thank you so much. This is a wonderful forum. I like hearing the diversity of different thoughts and input to what we all are experiencing. Grace, I really appreciate hearing a little bit more. I volunteered at Prado before with my Rotary, and it really is a wonderful resource in our town. On a personal note, well, I'll start with saying I live near downtown, right by Mission Prep High School. My business is on Monterey Street, a block from the government center. I own a healthcare company. And I definitely have seen, born and raised from this community, the increase of homelessness and the increase of crime that really, from them, that it concerns me because I've experienced it firsthand. I'd come to a forum before with the city, telling Heidi that at my business, I had experienced some kind of scary instances with homeless coming to my business. And I was by myself in my office, and it was frightening, but the police did come. I also have a personal note of experience with homelessness because my mother suffered when I was in middle school of some addiction issues, which led us to being homeless. So I was a child in middle school in Santa Maria in a homeless shelter at one point. So I really have a perspective of understanding what lack is, what seeing a parent have challenges that didn't really meet the needs of children. And I definitely, with Grace mentioning that, feel that there's a lot of resources that we don't know in our community that we really need to focus, awareness to. There's so many different business owners that I know that are friends of mine that feel that they're not being heard. They're experiencing in their businesses the safety issues with their employees, their customers not wanting to come to their business. And, just there being the resources out there isn't enough, but the awareness of what they are, and there being a focus on really protecting children, and there being a protection for seniors. I've in the brief time that I was homeless, and I was a child, but really you can kind of grow up very quickly, and being in those kinds of environments, it's children and it's seniors that maybe have, or close to seniors that really have grown into not choosing to be homeless, and they really need those resources. The people in the middle sometimes are making choices that want to continue to be there. So I really appreciate, I probably actually will reach out to Grace to figure out some more of those, but I really would be very encouraged to see our city promote, whether it is, advertising, a commercial, or, signs, and then business owners being educated to know what resources we have so that we can help other people. Because I definitely have a lot of empathy for people that are in that circumstance, but I also empathize as a business owner, and, safety for my staff and safety for my neighbors, and where I live, that we definitely can be protected. I greatly appreciate the police department and them having what resources they need to support us as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Renelle, so very much. You know, we've heard from many of you tonight. Others of you have placed comments in the chat. Thank you very much for that. We're capturing, just a reminder, both your verbal comments and your written comments. This is an incredibly complex, nuanced, multifaceted issue that our very compassionate community cares about, and we want to establish work programs for the city that are within the city's ability to make progress on and are consistent with the city's mission. If you have comments that you haven't had a chance to make via the chat or by raising your hand, I encourage you to do so. We've got about 15 more minutes left. You can also go back to the main page of the community forum and jump on to another topic if there's something else of interest to you. So I encourage you to do that as well. At this time, I don't see any other hands raised. So I do encourage you, if there is something you want to say tonight to the group, please raise your hand now. All right, it looks like a lot of folks are jumping off and maybe hopping into some of the other opportunities at the main community forum page, and Melissa keeps putting that link in so you can get back there and join. And if you're new to the group, raise your hand and let us know, and we can give you an overview on this topic. Oh, I see a hand. Thomas.
Hi, this is a follow-up basically to my previous comments. And I think it has to do with kind of going back to practical advice, perhaps. So if I mean, this is maybe directed at the Chief Agson and Chief Smith about, you know, if I'm living, say, off of the Bob Jones Trail, and, you know, I hear or observe fires or camping that involves what I believe to be a public safety issue, you know, this I agree with many of the comments that I've seen about the you know, the need for compassion and the need to make sure that we remember these are human beings. Of course that's true, but there is also a genuine public safety issues that come with unregulated fires in vegetated areas and things like this. In the past, when I've attempted to contact, say, dispatch about these things that are happening in real time, the police of course are very professional about it and they do their best, but it's often very difficult to communicate where these are happening and how to identify them. If they're happening in the middle of the night, sometimes it's actually not safe for officers to go back there. This is, say, along the Bob Jones Trail in the Greenbelt there. In contacting the rangers or CAT, you know, there's usually an email exchange, but there's very long lag times, oftentimes involving, you know, days or weeks between exchanges before there's any kind of action. And so when I was alluding earlier to the notion of a clearer place to report issues, you know, when I've gone ahead and emailed or contacted my neighborhood officers, again, I think the spirit of the neighborhood program is very good, but I've never actually received a response from any of the neighborhood officers I've contacted. So again, I want to emphasize the importance of compassion in these situations, but I think there's also municipal codes about lighting fires and unregulated camping and things like this that genuinely affect everyone's safety, including those that are homeless under these conditions. I'm just hoping to maybe be able to get a little bit of clearer advice about where the city is going with these things, if there's a strategic idea behind how to regulate these things, and if perhaps on a more tactical level, you know, exactly what should neighbors do if they smell smoke in the middle of the night coming from the creek on a practical level. So anyway, maybe if you could have any wisdom on this, I would appreciate it.
Chiefs?
Sure, if you'd like, I'll go ahead and tackle the fire side. So Thomas, great question. I really appreciate you asking that. And that we know we have, unregulated fires all throughout the creek, all throughout San Luis. And, what we ask the citizens, because we do know it's a health and safety issue, for all of our community members, not only the homeless, but as well as those that live, near the creek areas, is really just as soon as you smell smoke or you believe there's a fire, is to go ahead and report it to dispatch. If it's a fire you believe that's out of hand, using 911 or using the normal office line, and they can get fire resources and law enforcement out to that location. And it is complex. It's very difficult in terms of, we want to extinguish those fires. We want to ensure that they don't escape and they become large conflagrations and the hazards to our community. But conversely, we also know that the transient and homeless population in those areas are using those fires for heating and cooking and light. And so it is a very challenging thing. And so what I would share with you is we are being very aggressive with our fuel management and looking at what we can do to create a better barrier in those locations all throughout San Luis Creek, as well as all of the drainages that dump into San Luis Creek, to try to reduce those hazards and really pinpoint areas where we know we have big concerns that if a fire is able to get out, we could have that, the Tubbs fire, a big conflagration like we've seen up in Santa Rosa and some of these other areas where escape fires, gets wind driven and becomes, very difficult to handle. So, when we do make contact with our homeless individuals, we ask them to extinguish the fire, we'll put the fire out. But as well as I do, although we only reported, I think, about 35 fires this last year, there's literally hundreds of fires that occur that go unreported. So, kind of the best aspect on the fire side for us is really to be very aggressive with our fuel management. So we're working with Fire Safe Council to leverage some grants to allow us to get in there, potentially, bring some mechanized equipment, some hand equipment, and utilize, some agricultural, utilizing goats and sheep to come in to try to reduce those the fuels in there, which are really the hazard for us. So, again, number one priority is if you smell smoke, you see fire, please call, because we do want to continue to address it.
Yeah, I'll just, really quick, I want to comment. And Thomas, first, I want to apologize if you aren't hearing from your neighborhood officers. That's not acceptable. I do appreciate the fact that you recognize it could be due to days off. But the open space and the fires can be very challenging. And we do send officers out. We do our best to locate if there is an illegal burn. Essentially, what is our authority? Basically, we can give them a citation for having a fire. It's not a lot. It's not an automatic. We can remove them or relocate them because of those reasons. I've worked closely with Chief Axon, and we do understand the concern, especially as it appears we are somewhat in a drought. There are more fuels out there and flammable fuels, and we realize that a lot of these locations are very close to residential areas. So, but like you said, and I wish I had a great answer or an easy one. Often they can be difficult to find or even locate, especially at night and when it's just based on a smell or a scent of fires. And the other challenge is resources. There are times at night where we may only have 4 officers and a sergeant on, and along with those issues is just responding to calls. So I apologize. I don't have an easy and simple answer, but it is something that we are working with our fire department, and as a city, we are looking into how do we mitigate some of those hazards. So.
Thank you, Chiefs. I see that Adam has a hand raised.
Hi there. Thank you for taking my question / comment. And I do want to thank the city for this community forum, as well as with this issue, of course, the representative of the police department, the fire department, and of course, social services for what is done and is we try and tackle this issue. And I know we all look at the situation, we see it getting worse, and I feel that compassion, I mean, it should go without saying, these are human beings. I feel sometimes that we can't be afraid to maybe go back to the drawing board a bit. If you take a look at Mitchell Park, I would joke on my show that we called it Mitchell Encampment, because a couple of years ago, you started seeing people really making a position to living there. A lot of people are not, you know, bringing their kids in the strollers, they're not walking their dogs anymore. Now it's, I call it the Mitchell Campground, because now, like the other lady said, it was actually kind of funny. Did everyone get tents for Christmas? Because now you're starting to see, like there was an article in the LA Times about McMansion tents, where you have 2 tents that are combined with blankets. And just over the weekend at Mitchell, at the Mitchell Campground, there was about 2, 3, 4 cops, and then, you know, probably 7, 8 personnel. You have the 74-foot fire truck there, and they're putting out a shopping cart. The problem is getting worse, and I feel if we're not willing to acknowledge that whatever we're doing in the last 2 years, last 4 years, you could say homelessness has gotten worse in the last 10, but you could say it's magnificently gotten a lot worse in the last 4, last 5, last small handful of years. So I would just encourage him, to be honest, I've been reading a lot on it. I don't know all the answers, and I know we have to think with heart, with compassion, and we live in a great city with a lot of great minds, but I just want to encourage and advocate for not losing the idea of going back to the drawing board, because what we are doing right now is just not working. And you're listening to people who have staked their reality, their livelihood with their businesses, with their homes. They live near this, and it is affecting public safety in a pretty significant way. So again, just encouraging us to go back to the drawing board, because what we are doing and have been doing in the last several years is not only not working and getting better, things are getting worse. Thank you for listening to me.
Thank you, Adam. I do not see any other hands raised at this time. Just want to remind folks that you can put comments in the chat. And I believe at about 7:55, we were going to start suggesting that people begin contemplating moving to another room real quick, or moving back to the main room. And if there's anyone else, this would be the time if you wanted to raise your hand, but we're also capturing your comments via chat as well. And you can go back to the main room if you like.
Thank you for hosting this. I think I'm going to head back to the main room now. I appreciate all your times.
Sure, our pleasure. Melissa, will folks be able to comment through the main city link as well? They'll be able to continue to comment at slowcity.org. I think they can. I think Summer's going to announce that if there's things we forgot.
I'm not sure that they're able to do that. So I would encourage people to leave their comments here.
Leave their comments here. Okay, great. So last couple minutes to leave comments on this topic. Thank you. And I think there's, just a refresher, there's 9 other topic areas, groups for folks to jump into, and there's an other room. So if one of the areas of interest that you're interested in doesn't show up in writing as a pre-populated room, there is the broader other. So if you'd like to add anything that's not related to homelessness, you can hop into one of those rooms too. I don't see anybody new cropping into the room, right? Does anybody else? Mohammed, are you here for technical support?
Yes. Each one of the IT teams is in different
Awesome.
room. Brett,
awesome.
Nick, Eric. So yeah.
Thank you for that tonight.
No problem, anytime.
You know what a troublemaker I usually am.
No, you're not. You're fine.
I learned the hard way this week, if you update your computer at home, it has to connect to the VPN at the city to allow you to log in.
If you change your password at home.
Yeah, I didn't know. Well, it changed the connectivity because things updated.
Yeah. So because when you sign in, your passwords are usually cached in the cache memory of the laptop. But if you change it at home, you're not connected to the city network, and you will have an issue with that.
It was so fun.
Yeah.
Isn't that working?
No, yeah, like it's like you, yeah. Nick was able to help you at least early in the morning, so it was nice.
Yeah, it was fine. I literally plugged the computer in here and it worked.
Yeah, that's basically, yeah. Once you're connected, it gets all the backup and it will be fine.
It was fun. It was a funny quirk. It's like, oh, I didn't know that.
Well, now you know, like for next time.
Well, I see we have a new person, but I think they're here in their capacity as a city staffer. So just a reminder to use the chat. And if you do have any comments or questions that you'd like to share with us verbally, feel free to raise your hand or just unmute yourself.
Shelley, I can't remember, but it is 8. So if it was back at 8.
Astra kindly put in the chat that they are reconvening at 8:15. And I think that was an update to our slide. I think I'd read an original slide. So it does say that the main Zoom session will reconvene at 8:15. So that was my apologies. I think we originally thought it'd reconvene at 8. So we've got a little bit more time in this room, and maybe some people are jumping around, and hopefully folks are hopping in other rooms too. As we had open space and infrastructure and other, and good wide array of topics. Good evening, Councilmember Marks.
Hi.
You've joined this room as it's petering out a bit. We probably had a good couple pages of folks originally, and there are a lot of comments captured in the chat, and staff were taking notes when people were providing input verbally, and so we had quite a few people participate this evening, which on this topic,
good.
which is great.
Yeah.
Oh,
well,
I'm deep. We do have a speaker, Adam, who has, I think, something else to add. I apologize.
I would like to welcome Council Member Marks, and I would like to ask her from what you remember from this issue with regards to your time as mayor of the city, to how you feel the issue has evolved, gotten worse in the short time since 4 or 5 years ago that you were mayor, if I may.
Let me just repeat what I think the question is. Has it gotten worse in the last 4 years? I'd say yes. From my observation as somebody who lives here, I don't think that's the fault of the city council. I think that it's a vast, complex situation. And it's worse during the COVID. I mean, when we have a stay-at-home order, and then we have city residents who don't have a home. It's just heartbreaking. I'm really concerned about it. One of the things I've done when I haven't been on the city council for the past 4 years is work with the Friends of 40 Prado and volunteer. Now I can't even volunteer again because of the COVID. But, trying to do our best to help the people who are really motivated to get help and get a stable housing situation. I've also worked with Haslo and, backed as much supportive housing as possible. So, yeah, it's just a heartbreaking situation, and to a certain extent, it's the most difficult, or the segment of the homeless population that has suffered PTSD or addiction or some sort of mental health situation. So they don't really trust the system or the government, and they want freedom, and they define that as doing whatever the heck they want any place they want to. And sometimes they're aggressive. And so that's the segment. That's not the whole unhoused population, but that's the segment that's got your average person or visitor to the city really upset. You get yelled at. I've gotten punched myself on the way to a slow cog meeting, stuff like that. And it's criminal behavior, but it's what happens is that people sometimes associate that with everybody who doesn't have a home. I don't know if that answers your question, but I'm really curious. I will look at the recording of this session and any suggestions that people might have to help the vulnerable population, but also help protect the quality of life for all of our residents, Yeah.
And just for the non-staff and non-council member on the call, council does get a fully summarized list of all of your comments in chat, and it'll take us a few days to collate that for council, and they'll be using that as they develop their proposed goals, which I think the goal setting session is February 6th, a Saturday, and the public
that's what I recalled as well. Yeah. I think it's a morning.
It's a morning,
Saturday, yeah.
And the public's invited to attend.
It's from 8:30 to 1:30, I guess, something like that.
Oh,
that's the timing. Okay. Yes.
Councilmember Marks Mohammed is a member of our IT team. If
yeah,
you have
I
not,
know he set me up with this very computer.
Yes, he's the best.
and was great and still is great. So
I know.
thank you.
Yeah. I'm happy for that.
I always love it when he gets to help me.
Oh gosh.
My pleasure, anytime.
That's wonderful. Good. Well, I'm going to try to see if I can sneak in one more.
Awesome.
We just have like 10 minutes.
We do, less than 10 minutes. And so Melissa's been putting the main link in, and you can go back to another group.
Okay, thank you. Let's see if I can do this again. It's a bit of a challenge. Okay, let's see. Thank you already. So that is not working. Let's see this. Okay.
I think we have it easy staying in one room. Oh, just did it. So do we just go back to the YouTube site?
I think we'll go back to the main forum.
To the main room?
Yeah.
So do we just click on the link that Melissa's been posting?
Hey, that's a good idea.
Is that what gets? Seriously, is that what gets us back? Or?
I think so.
That will get you to the website, and then from the website there is a big main Zoom session. You click on that one.
Thank you, Mohammed.
You're welcome.
I've just been clicking on the links Ryan embedded in email.
That's another option that you can use.
Yeah. I'll do that.
Melissa, you're muted. I'm gonna make a t-shirt in every language. You're muted.
She's just mumbling, nothing you want to hear.
Okay. She's swearing at me under her breath. Such a Don't you think it'd be fun instead of the thank you? You're muted. How would you say you're muted, Mohammed?
In Arabic?
Arabic, yeah.
Yes. Yes. Like you can say, I can't, لا أسمعك.
Okay.
Yeah. Or in French also.
Yeah. Is French your first or second language?
Second. So in Morocco, Arabic is the first language. French, basically it's also, we grew up learning it since 3 years old, 4 years old. So yeah, but it's still considered the second language.
Yeah. My niece was completely immersed when she grew up in Monaco. And so she spoke English and her siblings were bilingual. So she spoke both languages simultaneously, and she still does that. So she might say, my blue chapeau, oh, look at the chien. And so she didn't notice that she was.
Oh, I do it all the time when I'm talking with my family, like my language has French and English and Arabic all in one sentence. And I just get used to it and they get used to it. So they're fine. But when someone new, they're like, what?
Yeah.
What language are you talking about?
Brigitte lived in Bern for 10 years. And she said, if you were a native Swiss German speaker, you'd speak German. If you're a native Swiss French speaker, you'd speak French. So you did both to each other. So one person speak French, one person speak German. But I see we have a new member, or a new, maybe two people, Naomi and David Blakely, and this is the homeless breakout session. And we've had a lot of comments in the chat box, and we had at one time quite a few people making comments. And so we're here to answer any questions you might have. If you'd like to unmute yourself, or feel free to put comments in the chat box. And Melissa also did drop in a document that gives you a couple slide highlights on this topic. I am struggling with your chat question, the locally produced best practices for the homeless issue. I'm not entirely sure what you're referring to, and if it's, we have a 10-year plan to end homelessness. Keith, do you have?
I don't. I was just going to ask if this is David Blakely, my 7th grade social studies teacher in Atascadero. I know that was random, but it just...
Yes, it is.
You got a thumbs up, Keith. He said yes.
It is.
Oh, nice.
It's good to see you.
It was only like 150 pounds and a full head of hair ago. So.
I remember you. I remember you. But anyway, you know, this homeless issue, I mean, everybody's struggling with it. And I just feel that there are people way smarter than me that live with this issue every day. And there has to be some consensus or best practices that these experts have come up with for our community. Instead of us just thrashing around about all these wild ideas, what are they saying we should do? Or do they have a document that we can look at that's got answers in it?
Sure, I think that's a great question. And we were following a 10-year plan model to end homelessness in many jurisdictions, counties, and cities in the state. We're following that. Interestingly, a federal report on the success of that came out and actually had some pretty critical points about that style of solution, because unfortunately it wasn't inclusive of wraparound services. And so what we are finding is that the mental health services component and the health services are certainly really important. The county has initiated a work group starting this month. They'll be leading a regional effort. We will be hiring in very short order a homeless services manager to assist us in developing a plan about this issue. So we do need to do some research on the best practices, and we hope to coordinate, as you know, with the county who is the lead agency for this effort. And we have come to the end of these breakout sessions. It is 8:15. Jackie, if you would like to add anything to the chat, now would be the time to do that. And we are going to suggest that folks make their way back to the main room. And Melissa, if you don't mind putting that link right back in, Melissa's going to put the link in the chat that takes you back to the main community forum page. And that's where Summer is going to be doing some wrap up, and we'll be encouraging some more public comment. So thank you, and nice to see that connection. All right, I think we pop off, right? And Melissa, you've got everything captured.
Yep, we're going to stop recording right now
okay.
as everyone hops over to the main
cool.
one.
All right.
Thank you, guys.
See y'all on the
Thank
main
you.
page. Thank you.